Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you for the 9th year on Bright House Cable. We've been on the air for 9 years, bringing you what's going on in the Hispanic community and what's going on politically in Central Florida, the goods, the bad, and the ugly. I want to remind you about the Lawyers Consumer Directory. This is a directory that you can find in any 7-Eleven store, actually 170 7-Eleven stores throughout Central Florida, and you can pick up this book for free. Before you hire an attorney, get a hold of this book because it tells you how to hire an attorney. It also gives you information about foreclosure, about divorce, about bankruptcy. This is a great tool. So before you hire a lawyer, go down and pick up this book and then hire a lawyer. It comes in English and it has a bilingual section, so it comes in Spanish too. Don't forget, any 7-Eleven free of charge. The Lawyers Consumer Directory. I'm here today again with Lolita, my co-host.
Here we go again.
Yeah, well, you know, you got
to put that little Spanish.
Why do you hide that Hispanic side of you?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you know, let it flow, let it come out.
Freckles, light eyes, red hair.
Okay,
I don't know.
Light eyes, no freckles. But you know, why don't you? We're here to interview and do a little politics here.
Okay.
Why don't you introduce tonight's guest?
Okay.
And then we can go from there.
Absolutely. Tonight's guest is Randy Ross, who is actually running for Orange County Clerk of the Court. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of great questions for him tonight. But actually got to meet Randy probably, 2 years ago, mm-hmm. Where I actually was able to assist him and help him in a situation, his own personal situation. If he wants to share that, he can. Mm-hmm. And came to know him in that light, mm-hmm. and he understood the process of what all this was about. So I'm sure some of the questions that I'll give him tonight, it'll be bring back some memories, I'm sure.
What does the Orange County Clerk of Courts actually do? Because that sounds like Alice in Wonderland, a deck of cards, you know, and all that. You know,
I guess it depends on who you ask.
What does a clerk of court do?
They're primarily responsible for administering or overseeing the justice process for working men and women, as well as all those judges and folks that are attorneys out there and that bring all that process together. You know, one of the things that was interesting to me about the clerk of courts process, because I was looking at different races, you know, because that's a partisan race, and I am a Democrat, and I was thinking, you know, there's that particular race in 2008, there was a Democrat that almost beat her. And here she had been in office for almost 20 years. She's been in school board for 12 years, on the clerk of courts now for 12, running again for re-election. And I said to myself, you know, I think that's something I need to take a closer look at. And the bottom line is that, you know, if I'm a working man or woman, I need to be able to get into the clerk's office when it's open. When they reduce the budget, guess what? You can't get in there after 5 o'clock. That's when most people get off work. That's when they need to be able to get in there. If I need child support or I get some type of payment from a settlement, guess what? I need to be able to get that. It was taking 90 days, 120 days. Well, the bottom line is for an average person, that can mean whether they eat or whether they lose their home. And having been in a situation where I almost lost my home after going through a situation with a job crisis and Glenda helping me with that, I'm still in my home now almost a year and a half later. And I'm in that house because she helped me figure out a way through it. So I'm not afraid to talk about that publicly. You don't have to be, candidates don't have to be rich and famous. You know, that's and I think that's the way it's perceived. You know, you have to either, you know, make it, you know, a lot of times when I go through the endorsement process, and when I ran for Orlando City Council, I had 12 endorsements, including the AFL-CIO and the Teamsters, and I still lost that race. So the bottom line is that, you know, it comes down to money. The candidate with the most money won that city council race.
It's the American way.
Yeah. It's the way it is. So in this particular,
you can buy the White House.
Yeah. And you know what?
Just
you really
you need to buy the White House.
Yeah.
If you don't have money, then you're out.
And it's the bottom line.
The money to buy the White House.
And the bottom line, you can't stay in your house if you don't have money. It's all kind of the same relevant situation. And so what I decided to do in getting engaged in this race is it's not about winning or losing. Honestly, it's not. It'd be nice to win. It's really about having a voice for those people out there that are in the same situation that I was in. If the clerk's office is taking people through the foreclosure process on a relatively speedy basis, then guess what? I've been through that. I understand what that's like to have to reach out to the clerk's office and not even know what kind of letter to write. Because can I afford $5,000 for an attorney if I can't afford my house payment?
Are you saying that you're going to take the clerk's office and change the hours on it?
Absolutely. It should be a split schedule. If someone can work at Disney in the morning and the evening because that's when the most guests are there, why shouldn't that be when the clerk's office is open?
So what hours do you want the clerk's office to be open?
You know, that's something we still need to take a look at, but I would say if they can be open from 8 till 1, take a break from 2 until 4, and then come back from 5 to 7, that might accommodate most
idea.
people.
Yeah. I think that's really functional. I can't tell you how many times I come out of work and I go, damn, I got to make it to the bank. And you know what? Bank of America closes at 4 o'clock.
Right. Absolutely.
And you know what happens? If you don't get there in time,
and listen, they're making billions of dollars from the taxpayers' money. I mean, they're making billions. Why can't they have?
Bank of America is your favorite bank.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it might make the difference between, if you couldn't make it to the bank, it might make the difference between making sure you didn't get an NSF charge on that check that you got to deposit versus not making it. So, I mean, it's one of those situations where I think it's critical.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Sounds great. Yeah. Well, my biggest question is, because going through the foreclosure crisis that I've been through and watching families lose their homes, and what I'm going to say illegally through fraudulent foreclosure, from South Florida, in Palm Beach County, we have a clerk of the court down in Palm Beach County, and in fact I will take this right from the paper that I got this from. Newspaper, thank you. June 4th of 2012, where she actually, and her name is Sharon Bach, where she actually makes this quote: "There's no question that it is a crisis. This is a crisis for every single person in the United States. The banks have been negligent, fraudulent, and downright wrong in the way they have handled it." So my question for somebody new and fresh, and obviously someone who has served in her positions for so many years, how could someone look at you and trust in you to say, you know what, maybe somebody new will bring a change to where maybe it would matter to you. Maybe there is a voice that you have for the people to say, listen, fraudulent documents are not accepted. Whatever that process could be. How do you feel about that?
I think it comes down to, Glenda, it's a question of fiduciary as well as moral responsibility. The moral responsibility and the fiduciary one are the same. In my case, in my position. Here's the thing. You know, the bottom line is if the clerk knows on a regular basis they're processing paperwork that is fraudulent, I think they have a responsibility to tell someone. Now the question is who? Who needs to follow up on it and do something about it? If they just keep taking it from, you know, and I hate to mention the big law firms, but you know who they are in Orange County. If they just keep taking it and taking it and taking it, the reality is, you know, they're going to be able to bend the rules. And I just don't think that's fair to the average person. I've been one of those. I don't know if a $450,000 house going into foreclosure is average, but I was that person. It was happening to me, and it was happening because my six-figure salary went into an hourly rate out of my control. Right. You know, and I think that the reality of the situation is that in that case, she should be. To me, that makes her not to be the right candidate for that job.
Well, she was voted in that position. Let's hope that Lisa Epstein makes a difference in that.
What I don't understand is that we've had the biggest fraud in the history of America.
History of America,
okay?
Absolutely.
There is no question, and no banker who organized this fraud, because it was the banks and the mortgage companies that organized this fraud, nobody's gone to jail.
Nobody.
J.P. Morgan last week, J.P. Morgan Chase, who just opened up a branch in my neighborhood, okay?
Another one.
Yeah, last week, a week ago, said that they lost $2 billion of deposits. And I didn't hear where it went, how it was lost. And the CEO just came in and he said, well, these things happen, and he still got his job.
Yeah, well, not his job, he gets a bonus. I guarantee you he gets a bonus.
But let me
it's hard to lose $2 billion. You can't lose $2 billion just like that. Well, it's hard. That takes effort.
Yeah.
But let me simplify something that I didn't even realize. When I met with Glenda initially, I did not even understand what assignment language was. And I've closed and bought many homes in my time of living here since 1994. And she said, was your loan assigned properly? And I said, I don't know. But you know what? She slowed the process down for me. She allowed me to go through the process. And I don't mean this to be a commercial for you, because that's not truly why I'm on the show. I'm here to talk about my running for clerk of courts. But had I not known that, I would not even have realized that the fraud that was being talked about, that the issues that a lot of consumers were facing, I was one of those, and I didn't even know it. I would have probably just walked away from the house. That would have been the easier thing to do. But that one letter that I wrote them with her support, actually changed the whole way that that foreclosure was working, and I turned it into a home modification supported by the federal government at that point, something I didn't think I was going to be able to do. And so, you know, a lot of people would say, well, as a candidate, if you can't manage your own personal finances, how do you decide that it's okay to help manage those of the public? Do you think I'm the only person in America that's gone through that? And does that mean I shouldn't be allowed to run for public office?
Well, let me give you some statistics that I just pulled out. 45 million Americans right now, 1 out of 7 Americans are on food stamps. That to me is astounding numbers. I mean, it just blows me away.
Well, I can tell you this. 3 people in my office right now tonight have gotten together with a lady who is one of our co-hosts here, Gloria Puerto, and they're right now at this time bringing food to homeless people in downtown Orlando. And the people who don't have food to eat tonight, they gather in downtown Orlando. So the 4 people in my office, along with another group, are now feeding those people. And, you know, the attitude is, it's not me. There's always homeless people. Well, not to this degree.
Not today.
No.
It's
Not to
different.
this degree.
Well, I walk down there on the weekends. Look on the weekends, you see little kids walking around with their parents. It's a whole different scheme, a theme of
And I think that's one of the things when people look at this particular office or any elected office, it's an elected platform. You take that platform and you educate people on the fact that there are students in Orange, Osceola, and Seminole County that go to school every day on free and reduced lunch programs, but in the summer, where are they going to find a meal? That's still, just because it's clerk of courts does not mean you cannot use that platform to help bring some balance to the whole situation.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, I think that what we need is a lot of new faces, a lot of new talent, and certainly citizens who have suffered bring the most knowledge to the job. Because they've been there. It's like a soldier who's been on the front lines, knows what it's like, knows how to stay alive, as opposed to some rich guy who comes in with a ton of money and buys his way in, which is happening all the time in American politics. I mean, I think something like 60% of the Congress of the United States are multimillionaires.
That's right.
You know, so, and it's shifting in that direction where all of our elected officials are rich. So how can they relate to the problems of the homeless? How can they relate to the problems of people fighting foreclosure?
Well, deadbeat homeowners is what they call them. And what we tend to forget is that they were forced into foreclosures. Many of these families were forced. They were told they had to be delinquent. They were struggling to make their payments on time. And that is the saddest part when they go to court. And the judges look at them and say, you know what? You owe the debt. You went behind on payments. But they don't listen to the fact the banks instructed them they had to be delinquent. So
do you think that I had not tried to work with my mortgage company prior to that? Absolutely not. It wasn't until I had the language to understand some of the issues that were there that allowed me to change that whole process.
If somebody wants to get in touch, do you have a website?
I do, www.randyross2012.com.
And your phone number?
407-401-4409. You going to call me, Danny?
Listen, I don't call you. I'll be right here waiting. You know? Listen, I don't live in Orange County. I live in Seminole County.
Right.
But I'm picking my county. The show is seen in all the counties. We're in the 4 counties.
Right.
So this show gets out there. So I hope people will call you it'll give you a little exposure.
I appreciate that.
We're going to send out about 9,000 emails in Orange County. Let people know that you were here.
I appreciate
and they can go either see the show or see it on our website. This is Danny Ramos, and again, we'll be back in a moment with our next guest. We've been on the air for 9 years, and this is a Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every week, Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. on Bright House. And we're all about politics and feeling the pain for American citizens. Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. on Bright House Cable at 9:30. I'm here with my co-host, Lolita, but before we get to our guest, we're going to talk a little bit about the Hispanic license plate. This is the Hispanic license plate. It's the first Hispanic license plate in the United States. It was authorized by the state legislature last year. All the proceeds from this plate go to scholarships for Hispanic students, and it's a pride issue. So get the plate on your car, be proud to be Hispanic, and help needy students go to college. Hispanic Achievers License Plate available in 360 DMV offices throughout the state of Florida. We also want to share with you this little book. It's the Lawyer's Consumer Directory, and the Lawyer's Consumer Directory is available in 165 7-Eleven stores throughout Central Florida. It's absolutely free. If you need a lawyer, do not pick up the phone and react to a TV commercial. Pick up this big book first because it gives you real good information about divorce, foreclosure, and other good things, and how to hire, especially how to hire a lawyer. So pick up the book. It's free of charge throughout your 7-Eleven stores. Now we go to our guest this evening. How are you? I haven't seen you in a week. After we beat up all the bankers last week, we attacked and gave it to them. Are we going to do that again?
We're still here.
Yeah?
What can I say?
Well, maybe they haven't found us yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, we fly below the radar. We're a little small.
Really?
We're local, small town.
You haven't seen me on Facebook, obviously.
Really? Mm-mm. Okay, so I should stay away from you, right?
You'd be proud to be associated with me.
Oh
Mr.
my
Mayor.
God, I don't know. We are here with one of Central Florida's top attorneys in family law, probably one of the top 5 in Central Florida, a young woman called Marivette Gonzalez. Marivette has her own law firm, the law firm of Marivette Gonzalez, and she handles family law, which includes divorce, paternity cases, custody issues, child support, name changes, in case you're a criminal and you want to get out of town and you want to change your name, and stuff like that. Hi, how are you, Marivette? ¿Cómo estamos?
Estoy de lo más bien.
Really?
Perfecto.
How did you get in? Why did you get into law, and why did you get into family law? Why did you pick that strength?
Well, at first I wanted to get into criminal law because I saw all the injustices happening, and I wanted to be involved in the criminal justice system. So that was my undergrad major, and then I became probation officer. And actually,
You were a probation officer.
Yes, but actually, in defense of me, because I know what you're going to say, in defense of me, instead of putting the probationers in jail, I had the highest compliance rate, which means I would help them get through the system.
Listen, I put them in jail. As far as I'm concerned, lock them up. If they do something wrong, throw away the key.
That's right.
But how did you get into probation? I mean, what was that? Was that something that you did in planning your career for experience, or was that something that you did in order to make money, to get yourself through college? How did that work out?
Actually, being a probation officer is a combination of being an attorney, a counselor, and law enforcement.
Okay.
So that actually gave me a little bit more perspective of why I wanted to become an attorney. I was always out on the field checking the probationers. I was in the jail. I was also counseling them and checking the conditions, but I was also always in court testifying with regards to whatever.
What kind of probation people did you handle? I mean, was it like family things, or was it people that sold drugs? In other words, you're an attractive woman, so it's kind of probation seems to be out of place.
It would be possession of marijuana, less than 20, of course. There was misdemeanor probation, battery, domestic violence, and injunctions, violations of injunctions, DUIs, driving with license suspended, petty theft, anything.
And how long did you do that for?
I did that for 5 years.
And then, was that when you were going to law school, or after you finished?
Actually, that was before law school, and then I did the pilot program for Seminole County for the impact program for the GPS monitors before they existed. So I did that pilot program for high-risk offenders to bring some of those monitoring system into the county. Okay. And then when I left, another probation officer took over that department.
Okay. When did you start law school?
Law school in 2000.
You're that old, huh?
I don't know.
She's a baby.
Actually, that's the downside. Some people say I look younger than what I am, so they underestimate me, which is good in my personal life, but with regards to my professional life, me being an attorney is actually my second
60 years
career.
Old?
No. I'm in my 30s.
Okay.
Still a baby.
Yeah. Tell us, what kind of cases do you handle? Like what is, in divorce, let's say, what happens, what is the procedure when two people want to be divorced? What do you suggest to people out there who are looking to break up with their significant other? What's the first move they make?
I'm suggesting if you're cheating, don't do it with your credit cards. No, I'm just playing.
I like that.
Perfect.
Sorry. The process usually, there's the thing called financial discovery. That's why I said that. There's mandatory discovery, so there's a lot of information that you should gather before or during the first week when you meet an attorney. When you meet an attorney, you want to make sure that you know what questions to ask, because a lot of people go to consultations and they sit there, and then they call me after they leave, because that's when they think of all the questions. So I would suggest that anyone that's thinking of a divorce, think of the 5 most important things that you want to get out of the divorce, and speak to that attorney. And the most important topic that usually comes up is the children. People usually come into my office with, I want sole custody of my children. Or the flip side to that is they're afraid, or they come crying because they think the other person is going to take away their custody. Well, the word custody is not used in the state of Florida anymore. The state, what they do is they determine their parental rights and time sharing. And parental rights basically is who makes the decisions for that child's life. And time sharing is basically that, a schedule. What is going to be the schedule? If you want parental responsibility, sole parental responsibility, you have the burden of proving that the other parent is unfit to be a parent. So it's a high burden. So sometimes I have 2 good parents, and I ask them, as an attorney, okay, I understand that you want sole parental responsibility, but what has the other parent done wrong? Or is there any child abuse or neglect? And they have nothing. It's just a tug of war with the children.
Which I think is the worst approach that you can take, because they both deserve to have both parents. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because the women, and now more women are working, but the women are, when I'm speaking to the women, it's harder to explain to them that the father has a right to see their children, especially when they say, well, how can I get sole custody? And I start asking them, well, how is he with the kids? They have nothing that I can legally use against the father. So the system doesn't work like that. You can't just have sole custody because you want it.
Well, back in the day, though, too, I mean, if you think about it, there was loose laws that really protected women and children. Now, this might date myself and, make you a little younger in this conversation, but, I mean, that's the way the laws were. I mean, it was really, I don't want to say against men, but they had a tougher time because they looked at the mother being the nurturer. They're the ones that were, raising the children in a sense of the Cleaver times, I guess, maybe. So I can see there was a shift. I know because I went through that myself through a divorce. And there was a shift of realizing that really it's 50-50 when it comes down to it.
What do you think about, Mexico is trying to pass a law that you automatically expire after 3 years or 5 years. You get married and then it expires.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, in Mexico, what I'm talking about.
It's to prevent divorce. And actually, we've been talking to Anthony Suarez because me and him had a discussion with you
about that. Yeah. I heard it on television. I heard it on CNN about 4 months ago. That Mexico, there were these people in the Mexican Senate or whatever, the House, and they were trying to pass a law to avoid all of this divorce stuff. They were trying to pass a law in Mexico that when you get married, your marriage license expires. It's not a forever license.
If you want to keep going, you can renew it.
I don't think that's a bad idea because then I think it's a great idea because then you go through counseling. You make sure that we're all being civil and good to each other, and no cheating with credit cards. And I think that's a great idea.
Who cheats with credit cards? What are you talking about?
It's with cash only.
I thought you cheat with an opposite
cash
person.
Only. Too funny. But I'm actually in the foreclosure world, so I can only imagine seeing families that are being separated because of our economic times and losing their homes and that type of thing. I know you don't know that much about me, but have you seen in your practice a lot of people coming in because of loss of jobs and their homes being in foreclosure? Have you seen kind of a spike in that?
As a result of the economic situation?
Well, yes, and actually it's interesting that you bring that because that's the biggest, besides the children, that's the next biggest topic. When we go to mediation, that's what takes the longest, the houses, when there's property involved. Because before in divorces, and I remember when I got divorced, it's like, okay, let's sell the house and then split the equity. Yeah. Well, now you can't.
Sell house.
There's no equity.
Everybody's upside down. Right.
Yeah. So it's like you can't just sell the house. But not only that, the problem is, for example, if you two are in the mortgage, a marital settlement agreement, and this is what happens when people don't have attorneys, and that's when if you don't hire an attorney to fill out the paperwork, fine, but do not go to mediation by yourself, right? Because this is what happens, and you come to an attorney, and I have to fix this, and it's really hard.
It's hard to fix.
So what happens is you both are on the mortgage. The marital settlement agreement says you can have, the wife can have the house, but she's going to make payments on it. Okay, 2 years from now, wife can't make payments on it. who's on the mortgage?
Both.
Both of you on the mortgage.
That's right.
The bank is going to proceed after both of you.
That's right.
You're going to take that. You're going to take that final judgment to the bank, and the bank is going to look at you like whatever. They don't. You know that does not have jurisdiction over that. But it's only not only with the houses. It's also with cars.
Sure.
Because my father owns a car dealership, and I remember people going to them with divorces and saying, "You sent me a late notice." But my wife was supposed to be making the payments. I want off the car. Of course, the finance company is going to want two people responsible.
Right.
You know.
Well, and then the flip side of that, I'm going to tell you, there are some attorneys out there that don't give good information because they say, well, I'm just going to quit claim the spouse over. Well, I have to reprogram them and explain to them that has nothing to do with the mortgage. The quit claim is one thing, the mortgage is something else. And it really surprises people because there are attorneys that lead them to believe in their divorce decree that they're going to be solely responsible, and that's not true. Because if that person does go into default, you're absolutely correct. They are both responsible for that mortgage. So it's interesting that it kind of goes that way, where people believe that they don't have that responsibility anymore. So I just had that in my office today.
Do you mostly represent men or women? What do you gravitate to? What, I mean, because obviously you're a woman, so I would think that more women would go to you for the sympathy and the connection, where men would go to a male lawyer. Is that true, or is that?
Actually, I have both. At first, when I first started, it was men, and now it's women. But I think the women choose more of who they trust. Men go by, I guess they go by credentials or whatever, what they heard with another person. But women go by they trust. So, for example, if somebody retains me and I do a good job for them, they're going to refer me to a friend, which is what's supposed to happen anyway to begin with. So I think women, instead of just looking at a picture, they want to be able to trust that person.
Absolutely.
Where men want more, can you get the job done? And women do too, but they need to trust you as well. And women want to be able to speak more about the issues in between.
Well, because we're emotional, and that's what happens.
And I have to be able to listen too.
Yeah, oh, nice. He was terrible in bed. That's why we're divorcing.
Well, that could happen.
Well, you know what?
How many people get sued for that? You know.
Well, I don't know. That can only
I'm
come
asking
from
a
Lolita.
question. Does that ever happen?
I'm sure.
Is that part of the
happens,
thing
that happens all the time. They want to tell me about all the cheating, but that's what I was making a joke. But I mean, it's serious. But the emotional part, I need to get that out of the way because at the end of the night, I mean, at the end of the day,
no pun intended.
I need to get to the legal issues, which is what are we going to do with the children? What are you going to do? Equitable distribution. How are we going to divide the assets and liabilities? Is there any pension plans? Is there any IRAs? Is there any properties? That's what I'm interested. Because in the state of Florida, it's the basis to get a divorce. It's a marriage has to be irretrievably broken. Where in other states, which I'm not licensed, you might have to have a reason, such as cheating. Not in the state of Florida. Right. When cheating comes in, that's where the credit card comes in. When cheating comes in is, for example, let's say you want alimony, and the man says he doesn't have the ability. Well, you look at his bank accounts, and he's paying the rent for his mistress, or he's going out and spending money. So therefore, he has the ability. He doesn't have the argument that he doesn't have the ability. That's where the cheating comes in.
Well, look, we just ran out of time, Marivette. So let me talk about the license plate. And this is Marivette Gonzalez. She is one of the top family lawyers in Central Florida. If you have an issue that has to do with family, divorce, custody, please call Marivette, and her phone number is 407-440-5050. Don't forget the Hispanic Achiever license plate at your DMV offices. Be a proud Hispanic. Put this plate on your car. We will see you next week. This is Danny Ramos. And don't forget, Channel 49, Bright House Cable, 9:30 p.m. every Tuesday. We'll see you next week.